Hey, thanks for joining us again here at Northwest Christian Church. There's no doubt that our world has changed almost overnight in some very significant ways. And these are hard times and the crisis is real. And all of us have been affected by this pandemic in one way or another. None of us have been immune. And so we recognize that Northwest Christian Church that not everybody is okay. And we believe at this church that it's okay not to be okay, as long as we're going to be honest with ourselves and honest with God. And that we're going to allow God to work in us, through us, and among us. At NCC, we're about connecting people to God. We believe that God is still the answer to our world. At NCC, we also believe in connecting to each other as well, that we are a community. And we believe that God has given us resources, physical, emotional, as well as spiritual, to live an abundant life. And so we want to connect people to God and to each other. This means that we're going to provide some resources for you in the community and our community of faith. And so we're going to have some Living Well chats. And I'm bringing in some very gifted, some very knowledgeable experts in some areas where people are really living, especially living in times of crisis. And so we're going to bring in some nutritionists, recovery issues, grief. If you have a specific topic that you know people are dealing with, hey, let me know and we'll find somebody and we'll get them in here. We want to encourage you and we want to give some resources to you so that you can live well. Today, I'm really pleased to have Tim Howell with us. Tim and I go way back for 25 years. Tim is an ordained minister. He's a licensed professional counselor with his master's in Christian psychology. He has actually founded Christian Counseling Centers of Oregon in 1991, and he served over 2,000 clients. In 2000, Tim and his wife Serena founded Teen Reach. This is a ministry that provides hope and a future for abused and neglected teens who reside in our state foster system. And here at this church, we've been part of that track system for many years as well. Tim is dedicated to care for people within the therapeutic process and seeks to introduce them to the hope of Jesus Christ in the process. And so again, Tim, I'm so glad that you're here with us.
Great.
And we're looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us. Yeah. And so I'm just going to ask a couple questions. And again, we'll put your resource up there so at the end so people can connect with you as well if they want to do that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we recognize, first of all, that we're in this crisis. And so can you kind of talk a little bit about what you're experiencing or what you're hearing or what you're seeing in this pandemic, specifically with mental health?
Yeah, David, thanks for having me here with you. Our partnership has been a great partnership, and this has been a new normal for therapists because telehealth has not been widespread. It's been very isolated pockets. And now all of America is on telehealth and in the therapy world, and we're considered essential workers. And so we've been doing telehealth. I've been seeing clients in person, seeing a lot of people with a lot of stress, and a lot of people with anxiety, a lot of people with depression, a lot of people just overwhelmed by the feeling of being out of control.
Sure. Okay. So if people are sensing that they are out of control, or if they don't feel like their world is within their grasp anymore, what are some things they can do, or how would you help counsel people, the people that are listening to us right now?
Yeah. There's in psychology, there's a thing called internal-external locus of control, and it really is about the things inside the world that's greater that you actually control. And American people have a great sense of themselves, and that's.
Thanks for saying that very nicely.
Yeah, that's a good thing and it's a difficult thing. But when it's difficult, that sense of yourself gets lost.
Okay.
Because in what the pandemic has done is it's really exasperated people because that sense that they have things in control is just disappearing, and so. The things that you control are things like you can control whether you brush your teeth and floss and have healthy teeth, or you just don't do that, and you have a decision whether you get up on time or go run to work late, and now you can't even decide whether you're going to go to work because maybe you're working from home, maybe you're not working at all with 26 million people out of work.
Right.
But the external world of things that you can't control is really impacting people because they really realize that the things that they thought they could control is just now dissipating and disappearing, and that internally stresses them. And so there's some things that you can do when you feel out of control. You can do some deep breathing.
Okay.
and take some deep breaths and let them out slow and kind of get postured again. Going on walks is really healthy. Get big muscle movement helps you with anxiety and helps you with depression. Big muscle movement helps the brain work healthy and helps it do that. So getting out and moving, and you can stay 6 feet away from people and do that really well. Just eating well and going to bed and getting up at the same time, doing all those healthy habits are really healthy to make yourself feel good and will bring back things into control. And then, I believe that you should start your day with prayer and you should start your day with reading the Bible. I do that. I believe that's very, very healthy for people. It gets them centered back on things that are in control. And I believe that God has everything in control. I believe that He orders the steps of our life. He orders the days of our life. It says He brought us into existence and only He can take us out unless we take our own lives. And so I believe that we can have faith and confidence in God's laws and God's principles, that He is in control, and we need to put more of our lives into His life.
That's great, because some people feel like that COVID-19 is controlling their lives.
Yes, yeah.
And so is there also maybe just a listing or an acknowledgement about what we can control and what we cannot control, and being honest about that?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's important to recognize the fact that in life, that there's only so many things that you actually do control.
Okay.
My brother's in the insurance world, and the death rate is actually lower now in America than it was a year ago at the same time because we're not driving. And so we go down the road and we find that, people, I go from office to office and there's very few people on the road. And so people are going, so what am I doing in life and where am I happy? What's happening in my world? And so when we start talking about things that we can control, I can control whether I drink and drive, People that drink and drive, they're going to get in an accident eventually. So making those kinds of decisions, healthy decisions, whether they read the Bible every day or not, whether they pray every day or not, whether they meditate on the scriptures every day or not, whether, those are things internally that you can control. What you can't control is that drunk driver that's driving drunk.
Sure.
Or that person who is sick and going out in public right now and sick, and they shouldn't be going out in public. And so those are kinds of things that you can't control. You can't control what our president's going to do or what the governor is going to do or someone else is going to do around you, but you can control how you respond to that and what you're going to do about that.
Great. One other question maybe would be about mental health. What are some things we can do to make sure that we're doing well with our mental health? You shared a couple of those, but are there some other things that you would talk, especially maybe as a Christian counselor?
Yeah, I think it's really important that people have a sense of who they are. And I think that one of the most important things that a person can come to is an understanding of who they are and what they believe and what they're going to be about, that self-identity and what that is about. And so I think having a good sense of who you are and a good sense of what you're going to do in life and how you're going to approach life and how you're going to think about this. You can say, hey, the world is falling apart and everything's falling apart, or you can say, hey, I can do this. I can get up every day. I can go to bed at the same time. I can work out. I can read my Bible. I can do those things. I can be healthy in my mind by, the scripture talks about in Philippians chapter 4 about how to think and what healthy thoughts are and what unhealthy thoughts are. And so just being sure that you're thinking healthy and staying in that healthy mindset is really important. And I think a lot of people get in an unhealthy, negative mindset and they stay in that mindset, and that just has a major effect on depression and anxiety. If you have positive mindset and positive thinking attitudes about life, you're going to have a much better mental health. And that's really important because what you think has a lot to do with what's going on internally.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to have that Bible reading, that meditation,
yes,
that prayer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because that affects how you think.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. You talked a little bit earlier about some of the things that you're seeing in mental health. I mean, you had shared earlier about some of the stats. Can you share some of those, or what we should be aware of and concerned about?
Yeah, one of the really difficult things is today we're finding out from my police officer friends and different first responders that domestic violence is up 400% right now.
Wow.
And that really is difficult. I'm a domestic violence specialist, and when people get in that mode, the figure we don't know right now is what kind of abuse is happening to children when domestic violence is happening. And I think later on we're going to find that a lot of children are being abused because of people feeling hopeless and out of control. And that's going to be that's an unknown statistic right now. Suicide is up 60% right now because people are feeling hopeless and feeling that out of control feeling. And you know, if you're already struggling with mental health issues and something like COVID-19 comes along, it all of a sudden just pushes you over the edge. Okay. And so people are overeating. I'm doing a little bit of that myself lately. People are drinking way too much alcohol being consumed, and people are hurting themselves and their liver, their heart with alcohol and drugs, and they're doing drugs, recreational drugs and things like that, thinking that's going to make them feel better. Well, the downside of all of those things is it hurts your brain, it hurts your body, it doesn't help you feel better. It's not a way to make you feel better. People are going into pornography and sex and things like that because they're trying to make themselves feel better. They're going in the wrong direction. Right. And that's the problem, as you know, as a minister, and as you talk about, is that when you go in the right direction towards God's principles and who Christ is in your life, and you go to those principles, life starts changing, meaning in life starts changing, your purpose in life starts changing. Everything starts changing when you have a focus and center on Christ.
Right. Well, let me have maybe one more question. That's about maybe how do we stay connected when we're socially distant, and how can we do that? Or we see people that we care about, how do we stay with that kind of connection? You have some advice for that?
Yeah. You know, I saw something the other day which was really cool. I drove by a church parking lot, and here were 3 women with their SUVs back to back, and they were opening up their SUVs and they were talking. And I thought, brilliant, good idea for them to get out and process and talk. We need to do that. God did not create human beings to be isolated and to be alone and to not have touch and not have emotional and spiritual connection. We need that big time in our world. We do that in our forest. We have a fire pit, and we have people over, and we'll roast hot dogs and marshmallows, and of course we'll practice, you know, washing our hands and everything. We'll stay 6 feet away from each other. Sure. And we'll just talk and have fellowship and do, you know, practice what our governor's trying to help us do and be safe. And so we're having people over and doing that and being safe in that. We ask them questions. Have you been around anybody sick or anything else? So sure. being reasonable and thoughtful and asking good questions and having healthy hand washing practices. This is not airborne. It is through hand touch usually, mostly, unless someone coughs or sneezes and you walk through it. So we really don't have to be as paranoid about this as people think we do. We just have to be mindful of not touching our faces and doing those things. So doing things like being in community and being around people and having a fellowship and connection and talking, using Zoom and using Skype and using micro team and stuff like that to have meetings and having connections. We did our meeting, and we do that with our daughters and connect with them. Sure. That's a way of connecting and having connections, and we need to be doing that and reaching out and not staying within our own 4 walls. You know, sit out in your, God's blessed us with an April with sunshine, which has been awesome. Yeah. So we've been out and talking outside with people outside, and that's been a blessing. And doing that with your neighbors and, you know, having 6 feet away, that's a great way to connect and stay mentally healthy. So
be really intentional, just be safe. And
be safe. Yeah, be intentional,
but
be
make
safe.
Sure that we're driving those connections.
Yeah, absolutely, because we do need that emotional connection. God made us that way. We need that physical touch. We need that emotional connection. We need that intellectual stimulation as adults.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it. And again, we'll put your contact information up. And again, we have a great partnership at Northwest Christian Church with Christian Counseling Centers, and a couple of our campuses have some of your counselors on our site. So we'll continue to develop this relationship and see how we can continue to use what you have been blessed with, and how we can accept your help and helping other people become all that God wants them to be.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to come and talk, David, and God bless you guys.
All right, thanks.